That's what happened to me. Basically, I got sucked into high intensity training. So basically, I'll give you some context to that.
Yeah.
So in high school, I was pretty damn jacked, and I didn't have no structure. I didn't know what I was doing. I was like, hey, I was the bench press guy. Like Monday, Wednesday, Friday, let's go into the weight room, see how much we could bench. Friday, we'll max out. So do bench, basically upper body 3 times per week. I didn't train legs. The good thing is we took Tuesday and Thursdays off. I didn't train. So I was training 3 days a week and doing a decent amount of volume in high school. But my nutrition, I was like, I don't know how much protein I'm supposed to eat back then. I just ate my mom's cooking, you know? So, I mean, I was obviously eating enough because I made some pretty good gains, got pretty strong. So I was doing things right, but didn't know why. And then basically, once I got out of high school, went to trade school, now I was a broke college kid. So I didn't have money for food. My ex-wife and I, we had $10 a week for food between both of us. Yeah, imagine that, trying to stretch that, you know? So I lost a lot of muscle. Basically, I stopped training for, I don't remember how long it was, maybe a few months, 3, 4, 5 months, somewhere in there. Lost a lot of that muscle. And then I got a little depressed because of that, because I've watching my physical just go right down the toilet. And that was a huge identity for me all through high school. I'm the jack guy. Now all of a sudden it's gone. Like that was that was a hit to the ego. So I got a little depressed, and my ex-wife's like, you need to get back into the gym. So we were able to come up with some money to get me back in the gym. So once I started going, I was like, okay, let me train 6 days a week. You know, I was like kind of following the magazines. Let me do this 6 day a week thing. And I was doing 4 or 5 sets in exercise. Obviously, the intensity level wasn't extreme because there's no way you could do that much volume with super high intensity. But the thing is I was underfed. So I'm like, $10 a week for food. Like I know my protein. If I had to guess, maybe looking in hindsight, lucky if I was getting 100 grams. Lucky if I was. So I was just spinning my wheels basically. I was walking around in a fatigue state, not making any gains. And then I meet this guy at the gym who's a Mike Mentzer and Dorian Yates disciple. So he's like, dude, bro, you got to train with intensity, and you just need to eat. We need to pound the food. So that was his advice to me. So I started training with him for about 3 months. I went from 165 to 190 in 3 months. Yes, some of
Wow.
a good chunk was body fat, but a lot of it was actually putting some of that size I lost back on, plus accruing a little more. And my strength levels went through the roof, and yeah, I was making gains. But because I made so much gains in a short period of time, I was like, this is it. This is the holy grail right here. So I became basically a believer in that, and I got, in a sense, it's almost like cult-like, because you're following these principles, and you start deflecting other ideas, because it's in a sense I thought it was an attack on my ego, right? Like this is my identity now. I'm high intensity training, so hey, do more volume. No, no, no. This is how you do it. So I mean that's what you see in the real world, right? That's what happens with a lot of debates. So this happened for 16 years. I trained that way for 16 years. And I made a lot of gains, of course, and I did well because when my off seasons came around, I was always in like surplus maintenance. I was never in deficits. So, of course, I was going to be productive. But if I was to look back now in hindsight, when I was training those 6 days a week prior to HIIT, I think like, okay, if I would have eaten the same amount of food I was doing with HIIT, I probably would have made gains. And the question is, would I have made more gains or less gains? I have no clue, but I'm confident that I probably would have moved myself forward regardless, because the environment would have been conducive towards putting on muscle, creating more supply, and making sure it's outpacing the demand. My demand was just so high, I didn't have enough supply to keep up with it. So I think sometimes when we get into these bubbles, I don't think, like, especially on social media, like, you can't see every person's context. They're only going to show you what they're showing you. So there's a lot of context there to take into consideration. So what I've learned to do, like, especially if someone puts up some before and after pictures, I'm like, and you know, oftentimes they'll put the before and after and they'll say, okay, this is the 1 or 2 variables why I made these gains. I'm like, maybe there might be a lot more going on besides those 1 or 2 variables. So, you know, I would question those things. Like I would go in there just, you know, of course, politely, you know, and say, hey, what was the context like? You know, this, how was your training? How was your nutrition? What was your sleep like, life like? etc., etc. Hey, what was it like in this picture? Because there might be other moving parts besides just the one or two that they're kind of talking about in a post. So that's kind of a little bit of my thought processes around all that.